What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the RePHIL studio. SBPhilos4 here. As always, get your cans refilled ready and get this refilled to 99 because we're going to get started with our next set. And for this set, again, it's been a while since we've had an episode, but medical stuff all good to go. We have our two lovely special guests joining us today. First of all, we have Diya, who has gotten first place in the Feel X Heat X Beat event, and also 7th in the From the Past event, as well as Riley, who got first place in the Outside Inside event, 2nd place in the Feel X Heat X Beat event, and 3rd place in the From the Past event, among many other notable achievements. So, both of you, thank you for taking the time to join the RePHIL studio today. It's a great pleasure having you.
Hi. I'm excited to be here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Is there anything else like to add to the intro that I maybe messed up or I missed?
I don't know. I have like a lot of other T10s, but I feel like it would be like a minute to like list all of them. So
just a lot of T10s. Let's add, let's say a lot of extra T10s.
Some other T10s.
All right. Well, that's for Riley. Diya, what about you? All good?
A few other titles, but yeah, that's basically the gist of it.
All right. Well, both of you again, great to have you on the studio. And of course, when we have our special guests on, I always want to ask this question when it comes to, how they first got into Bandori, what sort of, kickstarted their I guess, their love and interest for the franchise. So maybe Diya, we'll start with you. How did you first hear about Bandori and how did you get into the series?
So in 2016, I watched the first season of the anime. Not 2016, but a few years ago, I watched the first season of the anime.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't get into the game until 2021 because I didn't have the time for it. But I really like the anime. I really like the franchise. The second I watched the first season of the anime, so that's how I got into it.
So you're like the super OG, like you started from the anime. That's a very rare sight because I think a lot of people, didn't really watch the anime or didn't really hear about the anime and didn't really watch it. But you basically came from the very beginning. So did you start playing the game immediately when it came out, or was it like many years after you watched the anime that you're like, oh yeah, I guess this has a game now?
Well, I tried playing the game when it first came out, but I didn't have like the time or the energy to play mobile games back then, so I tried playing it later by the time 2021 rolled around. So I didn't immediately start, but I knew of the game, but since like it came out.
Well, that's quite interesting. Again, even like there's a little bit of a year of a gap, right? A couple years gap between you actually knowing the franchise and then you really kind of seriously getting into the game. Was it like a particular band or character that kind of influenced you to really get into the game, or was it just the fact that the world kind of ended and then you had a bit of extra time to play the game?
Well, during the time I joined, RAISE A SUILEN had their first event, and I'm a big fan of RAISE A SUILEN, so I wanted to play when they first came out because I love RAISE A SUILEN. So that's why I decided to start in 2021 when it came out on EN.
Okay, well, that's great to hear that again. Having new bands was able to convince newer players like you, Diya, to be able to join, and that's really great to hear that. So you've been known about the series for a while, but again, quite recently, or relatively recently, joined the game. We'll move on to you, Riley. In terms of you and getting into the game and the series, is it a similar story? Is it a different story?
I think it is it's a little bit similar. I only started playing the game in 2021 as well. But I was a really big fan, or like I still am, of Love Live School Idol Festival. So I played that game for like multiple years before I ever got into Bandori. I knew about Bandori, but I just never really played it. Until I met my friend Juna, who was like, you like Love Live, you'll probably like Bandori. You should play it. And like for a while I was really like, I don't know. I just like Love Live. I don't know about anything else. But after all of my friends started playing it, I was just like, you know what, whatever. I'll start playing it, and then yeah, that's just kind of how it ended up. I just started playing it from there and never stopped.
Wow. Well, that's quite interesting. Again, you going from Love Live, which is again very focused on, I guess, the idols part. Maybe you enjoyed the rhythm game part of the game, but again, is there anything was there anything in particular about Bandori that after your friend Juna, we just kept working and trying to convince you? what helped you stick? What helped you stick with the series?
Yeah, so my friend Juna, who I mentioned, is also a really big RAS fan. And so like talking to them, I just learned a lot about RAS. And I don't know, I watched the anime after that, and I don't know, I really started liking RAS. So just even like before getting into the game, I knew that I liked RAS, and they were kind of the reason that I wanted to get into the game.
Oh, that's really, really neat. Again, going from idols into like RAS being a relatively different style, but I can imagine that it's definitely it definitely piqued your interest for sure. So big shout outs to your friend Juna on the convincing, and yeah, we have a pretty big RAS heavy podcast today, so it's going to be pretty exciting to hear about the achievements you two have on your tiering. Of course, as I mentioned in the intro, there's quite a few, just a few RAS titles up there. So
just a couple.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that very shortly. Before we actually talk about the actual tiering stories, I do want to get to hear from both of you in terms of getting into tiering specifically, right? Because being a big RAS fan, a RAISE A SUILEN fan, you could be a fan of them for just the band and for the music. You don't necessarily have to be for tiering, but the two of you decided that eventually you wanted to tier in the game. So I just want to get to learn about where that motivation first started in terms of, why would you wanted to do tiering. So Diya, we'll start with you, go back to you. How did you first get into tiering, and what convinced you that this was something you wanted to try out?
So I'm obviously a big RAISE A SUILEN fan, so I wanted to show my love for RAISE A SUILEN because that's the point of tiering. And I was also really bored, so I had nothing to do. So I decided, hey, I'm bored, I have nothing to do, I love RAISE A SUILEN, why not try tiering in this game? But I was a bit hesitant because I don't really like communities much. I don't get into communities very often, but I met some good people, so I decided to just continue tiering.
Okay, so how did you join the community? Was it did you just stumble upon the pub court and you just kind of hung out with a few people there and found people there, or how did that start?
Yeah, basically that. I got into pub court and I met someone cool and I just started tiering with them. So yeah.
So that person was the one who sort of said, hey, this game's pretty cool, but what's even cooler is tiering, and you just kind of fell into the trap of tiering. Okay, well that's quite interesting. It's quite for a lot of people when they get into the community, right? Like they at first maybe they don't necessarily or are not sure where to start or where to first find people, but to sort of bond with. But I think for you, Diya, it seemed pretty natural. It seemed quite easy that you were able to go into pub court, find people that you vibed with, and then eventually work to get it a tier. It seemed like it was a pretty smooth sailing journey there.
Yeah. I think it was more luck, honestly, because I didn't really vibe with a lot of people, but this one person, I just instantly, I don't know, I felt like they were really cool. So
do you know do you want to name who that person is and out them out?
It was Goon.
Oh, yeah. Shout outs to Goon. That's really cool. And again, for a lot of people, getting into the tiering community might be difficult because maybe they even get into sort of the general community, but tiering is a pretty specific part of the community. So it's pretty interesting that you're able to find it quite quickly and be able to go from there. So Riley, what about you? Did you have more difficulties in finding the community, the tiering community, or was it also smooth sailing?
So I guess I already knew a bit about like trying to get higher ranks in events, like just from playing Love Live when I started playing Bandori. But like I was really casual though, like I never tiered on Love Live or anything like that. But I decided like I can't remember what the event is, like a 2 to spread our wings. Is that how you pronounce it? I think, yeah, that was, I ended up getting T100 in that event just from like pubbing. I had a lot of Morphonica cards, so it just kind of worked out. And after that, this was like at a time where like on TikTok, there was a bunch of people trying to get into the tiering community. And I saw a TikTok about it. I don't know, I wasn't really like into this yet, but I saw a TikTok about it and I was like, oh, this is cool. And in the this is so embarrassing, but in the comment section, it was like, here's how you can get into tiering servers, and it had a link to your server. So I joined it, and then I got into the tiering community like that.
Oh no!
So that's that's actually how I joined the tiering community.
I didn't want to be reminded of that.
Yeah, it was definitely a time. I wasn't really like on the TikTok Bandori. I just kind of saw it and I was like, oh, this is cool. And so I joined your server and then I found tiering servers that way.
Oh my god, that is so funny. That's actually hilarious. So again, for those without any context, what basically happened is that during that event, there was a big TikTok craze of like seeing people doing really well in that 2 to spread our wings event. They're like, oh my goodness, look at all these people tiering. They look so cool. I wonder how to do it. And then one person in the comments was like, well, if you want, they're doing tiering servers. And if you want to join tiering server, you could join this Discord server. And they linked my Discord server into the comments without my permission. And then I saw like, there was like 50 people joining the server in like hours. I'm like, what happened? How did all these people show up and where did they all come from? It turns out it was from TikTok. So I think for a lot of people, most of them probably are no longer in the server, or probably don't really care too much about tiering servers. But as part of that casualty of my Discord getting raided, we have a tier who is built, and they were able to become a very strong tier as a result. So I guess I have TikTok to thank for having you on our 50th episode of the RePHIL Studio.
Yeah. That's like, I don't tell that story very often because it is, it's a little bit embarrassing, but that is how I got into the tiering community.
That is hilarious. Like, again, one thing I thought about after that story, I was like, oh, like, I don't think anyone's gonna like actually like stick. Like, this tiering thing is not gonna stick. Once they all rate it and see what's going on, I don't know if anyone's gonna actually stick with that. But hey, I was proven wrong today, just now. I'm proven wrong, and I'm perfectly happy that I was proven wrong.
I'm still here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, it's a pretty funny story. So I at one point I kind of wanted to share this story, but like we kind of did when we had people like Aqua join before and such. But that sort of connects the dots in that other aspect too. So that's that's honestly hilarious. So Riley, I'm glad you were able to share that story because it makes me reflect on that incident again and be like, oh, I guess that did bring some good out. So
yeah, it was definitely a time. I remember there was a bunch of I never really like post on TikTok or anything. I just saw all of this stuff happening, and I remember watching all of it, and I was like, what's this about? So I joined, and now I'm here.
Everything gone full circle. So that's honestly amazing. Riley, just one more thing. Like, again, you mentioned how you were not too competitive, right? In terms of, tiering before in Love Live, but like, did that TikTok video really like urged a competitive urge to like, tier, or was it like something else that you like that sort of like also helped click in terms of like, oh, I wanted to try tiering?
I don't really think it was the TikToks. I think it was just that I had nothing that I was doing that week, and I just started playing a lot. I actually, that event, I only played on like the last 2 days. I just played a lot. to get into T100. And then after that, I remember I was like, I want a T10. Like, I'm going to get a T10 after this. Like, I know I can get a T10. And so that was like, from that point, I was like, I'm going to like start tiering.
That is crazy. So you just knew right away that like, okay, this is something I wanted to do. And I'm like, and you're like, okay, let's get this bread and start showing off what you to do. So that's honestly really cool. That's really neat to see. So big shout outs to you there. That's like, you know, it's pretty neat to see how again, someone going from just like a casual observation of, you know, maybe being a part of notoriety history, but you know, end up being something that's really cool in the end, that you're able to get some really awesome titles from that. So we'll definitely start talking about a little bit of both of your tiering experiences in just a bit. But before we do that, I just want to go through a bit of a timeline, because of course, in terms of like getting the first T10 title, as Riley has mentioned earlier, just based on the timelines, and I'm looking on the side here because I'm just making sure that my timelines on the event was good. It seemed like the first T10 event that, by the looks of it, both of you ended up getting, and it was in the same event, a T10 plus. Or one of the T10 pluses together. It was from the past. Now, Riley, you may have gotten a T10 title prior to that, which you know, we probably did. But before we talk about that, can you, the two of you, share like, how did you two first meet each other in the community? Was the From the Past event the first event that you two tiered together, or was it like a previous event that you met together and then realized, oh, let's try tiering together, and then, you know, From the Past happened and such? So either of you two could jump in and, you know, share your story of how do you two first get to know each other?
I think the sorry, the first event that we both tiered was actually No Limit.
Okay.
That one was our first T10 together. So that's the event where we met each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So during that event, Riley ruined our park. Mm-hmm. We were trying to park, and Riley made us mess up our park.
Listen, man, I didn't know. I didn't know you guys were trying to park.
You said we'd park one thing, but then you didn't even park at all, and you ruined our park anyway.
That's
listen, I didn't know. Like, man, I didn't know.
You should have followed my guide of Mission Life Parking.
I really should have. This is like, when I first started like actually talking to Diya, she brought this up, this situation, and I had literally no idea for like a couple months that I had ruined her and Goon's park in No Limit. I had literally no idea. And then the both of them are like, I don't know, they're all still upset about it. I'm like, I had no idea.
It's been like almost a year.
I know.
So they don't have to hold a grudge. But jokes aside, you know, do you like, when you two first like got to know each other and got to tier, like, what was that experience like? Because of course, you know, meeting new people and realizing that you both have a common goal of, you know, trying to tier together is obviously really special. So what do you remember about that experience of, you know, meeting each other for the first time and also tiering together for the first time?
Well, during the limit, we didn't really talk to each other.
Oh.
Yeah, I was just about to say we didn't really talk at all during No Limit.
Oh no. There's no limit in terms of tiering, but there's a limit to how much you communicate.
I think a lot of people during that event didn't really like talk that much in the server. The event was really dead, and the server was dead. It was just like a really dead event overall.
Yeah, I'm just having a quick look at the timelines here. It was a weird timing event because I think it was like 5 days or something. It was like a really weird, pretty short event, I think. So yeah, it was interesting, I suppose. It was where like Bandori was just starting, like getting their speed up ramped up. So it was there for sure. It was something. But you know, even though No Limit was like, I guess the first time you two like sort of at least got to know each other, at least existed? Was there an event in particular that you like really got to know each other and really got to bond while tiering?
From the past.
From the past.
Yeah,
that was from the
definitely
past.
from the past.
Okay. Good. So we'll definitely talk about that very soon. But I just want to make sure the timelines make sense. So I'm just going to go back to you, Riley, and just quickly ask, like, between, like, was No Limit like your first T10?
Yeah, it was my first T10, but it wasn't my first attempt.
Oh, okay.
I attempted T10 in RAS Part 2, but there was like some problems with my bank account at the time, and I couldn't buy any stars. So I just ended up dropping in the middle of the event because I couldn't buy any stars.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But you knew, but that sort of, I guess, in a sense, the boat kind of motivated you to try again and get your first T10 title. So
yeah, I was already like on the roster for No Limit at the time. So I was like, after that, I was like, I'm just going to get this No Limit T10 and then I guess see what happens from there.
And when you talk about like, things like roster, things about like, tiering servers and such, was that adjustment difficult at the start, or like did you get it like right away? Like you knew that this was like, okay, I know what's going on and how this works.
Honestly, I think I understood it, but I was like really nerve-wracking. I thought I was going to mess up a lot of things. I remember the first roster I ever asked to be on was the Pastel Fan Road roster. And that was like, I was so nervous to like DM anyone. I went into like some random tiering server and I was like, does anyone have a link for this event? I want to tier it so bad. And yeah, I was just like really nerve-wracking, but I think I got the hang of everything like right away.
That's good. That's one other thing, just kind of going back to that TikTok raid. I was worried that like, a lot of people, when they would go into servers, they wouldn't really know what they're doing, or they know what they're doing and they're doing it purposely to try, sabotage and just not be a really fun presence for everyone. But because again, tiering servers are definitely very niche and specific in terms of what you're supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do. But it's good that you're able to adjust very quickly and really kind of take things quite seriously, Riley. So that's very good. Switching to Diya real quick. In terms of you, like getting used to tiering, right? Because I imagine No Limit was also your first T10. So what was that adjustment like? Getting into a tiering server and like trying to go for like a T10, like was that adjustment difficult at first, or did you also like get the hang of it very quickly?
Actually, No Limit was not my first T10.
Oh, okay.
So,
what was your first T10?
I got T10 during the RAISE A SUILEN, Raise the Curtain Part 2 event.
Okay, so again, more RAS, right? The timelines make sense because that definitely makes sense. So how was that experience like? Because that was a shorter event, and getting into the roster, getting to tiering servers. What was that like overall?
I pubbed most of it. I was just pubbing like most of it until I stumbled into and then tiered with Goon.
Okay. So that's where the story connects. You met Goon in PubCord during this event, and you were tiering together to get T10. Yeah. Okay. That's quite it. Like when you switch from tiering in PubCord to tiering in a tiering server, was that like a little bit different, a little bit like nerve-wracking, or again were you like accustomed very quickly?
It was. I actually didn't join any tiering servers for a while because I was a bit too scared to join them because I'm not used to communities and things like that.
That's fair.
After I did, I got used to it pretty quickly, I'd say.
And what convinced you to stay? Because again, you mentioned that communities are not really your jam or your thing, but what about the tiering community that you're like, oh, these people are not too bad. Let's continue to hang out with them.
Yeah, I just met some really cool people who I just like vibe with a lot, and yeah, it's just that the certain people I met were really cool. Otherwise, I really wouldn't miss.
Yeah.
So my kind of jam.
Yeah, so it all worked out because you ended up meeting great people, cool people like Riley and Goon and a bunch of other people. So it's really neat that you're able to sort of mesh and do well with them and be able to build good friendships with people, because especially with, you know, specific events like RAS events, right? You know, it's going to be the same group of people that are going to be trying to tier for these RAS events here and there. So, you know, it's obviously ideal to try and be able to be good on good terms with them, because otherwise it is would obviously be a bit awkward. So. But yeah, let's move on to talk a little bit more about the From the Past event, where the two of you were able to achieve a nice title. In particular, Diya, you got 7th place in that event, and Riley, you got 3rd place in that event. Again, this like going in the RAS event order, right? Because RAS Part 2, then it was No Limit, and then it was From the Past. So basically, you two ain't skipping a beat with RAS events. Every single RAS event, you're going into it. So, so tell me a little bit more about what your experience is overall in that event, and either of you could hop in this conversation. You know, how was that event overall? Like compared to previous RAS events, did you really get to like understand tiering and really get to bond with other fellow RAS tiers and such?
I think From the Past is like it was a really fun event. Mm-hmm. For the podium for me was like a really last minute decision. Mm-hmm. I was supposed to be running podium in Fan Road, which was the event like right after. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I don't really know if I should do this. But I decided to go for it, and I'm like so glad I did, because that event, like, we have like a whole server now mm-hmm. of people that we met like just hearing that event. Mm-hmm. It's Choo Choo Fan Club. That's like our server. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was just like a really fun event. The whole T10 was from our server. T1 to T10 was all people in our server. It was, yeah, there's just a lot of good memories from that event. I don't know if Diya wants to like expand on that.
We have some really, really cool people like Elle. Elle is the best person we met on the roster. It was just a really fun event. It was really dead also, so we got to have fun doing things like dealing with non-meta songs, like Beat That Easy, the best song for dealing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we just had a lot of fun because it was really dead, so there was no like pressure or stress or anything.
Okay, well, I think that's going to be an interesting topic, because a lot of the times when I interview or talk with individuals, I hear from people saying, the event was dead, or like it was relatively easy. But is it like a trend? Do you see that like maybe activity is just not as high on the RAS events compared to expect it? Now, to be fair, maybe all the events you've all tiered were basically RAS events, so maybe you won't know. But like, do you think in general like the activity in RAS events are a little bit lower than expected?
I think like 100%. It's lower than other events. The 2 only events I've tiered that weren't RAS events were Morphonica events, and both of them were like more alive than RAS events that I've tiered, which I think is saying a lot. No. Compared to RAS events.
Oh no, that's not good. Even Morph, that's like pretty surprising. Yeah. That's pretty surprising.
Yeah, even like From the Past, a T3, I parked halfway through the event. It was so dead that I didn't need to move. Like No Limit, the cutoff was 5 million for a mission live. Like, they're just generally very dead. I think even like some events that were supposed to be competitive, like Summer RAS, was like not competitive at all. And yeah, it's just like every RAS event has been dead.
Except I think maybe the first one. The very first one I think was pretty active.
Yeah, that one was active, but that was like the only one.
Yeah. Diya, what about you? Like, do you remember chugging in a lot of hours on From the Past, or was it like, oh well, I'm done like halfway through the event?
To put it simply, I've had tier 100s that are more woke than From the Past.
Oh no! How many hours on average did you play per day?
I think it was I didn't even remember counting. It was that insignificant because I only played like 2 days and then died off because I didn't do anything.
Unlucky. Come on, RAS fans, you two have to expand that Choo Choo fan club. Yeah, I don't know what's going on because that Choo Choo fan club seems a little small now. Maybe we gotta expand it so we have more people tiering for RAS events. Oh, we have people in the Choo Choo fan club that maybe they say otherwise, but can't keep. But yeah, anyway, but for both of you, big congrats on getting a nice title together, and from the past, and being able to, of course, show some RAS devotion here, and yeah, it's pretty neat to hear that you were able to get a title that was relatively chill, I would say. So for both of you, so even chill events, big props regardless, because you still got to put the time, you still got to put the resources to do the tiering, right? You can't just walk in and grab a title. So big props to you two for still, to this day showing your love and devotion for RAISE A SUILEN. Hey everyone, it's Phil here. Hope you enjoyed the episode so far. As a reminder, the RePHIL Studio podcast is available on all of your favorite platforms. Check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and make sure to give that high rating or the thumbs up whenever you do, because helping the podcast increase its reach to other viewers is greatly appreciated. In terms of other content, check out my VODs channel, the card description above. Consider subscribing to check out other content. And also, if you want to be a part of the content, join the Anga Academy Discord server, links in the description below, where you can contribute to the studio question every week and interact with special guests featured on the podcast. So looking forward to seeing you there. Last but certainly not least, a big shout outs to all of my Filler Nation members who've been constantly supporting me in my content. I really appreciate each and every one of you, and you get shout outs on pretty much every podcast episode. So thank you so much for your support. If you really like my content and would like to support me, join the Filler Nation by either subscribing to my Twitch channel or by joining my Patreon. Links in the description below. There's also a new feature. You can give a super thanks through my YouTube, so you could do that as well. Any support is greatly appreciated. Let's get back to the episode. Let's talk a little bit more about, I guess, the next event in terms of the RAS timeline agenda, which in terms of the next RAS event after From the Past, it is Outside Inside. Diya, you were able to get first place in that event. Now, first place is obvious.
Diya?
No, was it? No, it was Riley. It was Riley. Oh my goodness. It's Riley. I was like looking at my notes. I'm like, wait a second. That doesn't seem right.
No, it was Riley. It's okay.
Don't worry. I'll that mistakes happen on the RePHIL studio. So anyway, Riley, you got first place in Outside Inside. So what convinced you that you wanted to get T1? Because you already got a few T10s and you got a third place. So what convinced you that T1 was something that you wanted to do?
Yeah, so I actually didn't plan on going for T1 until like 24 hours before the event started. Mm-hmm. I was originally on the roster to go for T2, and Caster was going for T1. Oh. But then like right before the event started, he DM'd me and was like, do you want to go for T1? And I was so nervous. I was like, I had just dropped my T1 plans for tiering Summer RAS. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I don't really know if I'm ready to do a T1, but I didn't really want to give up the opportunity. So I just kind of went for it. Yeah. And it worked out pretty well. I mean, the event was also dead. It's a RAS event. It was relatively dead. The T1 was relatively dead. It was really chill. Yeah, it was just a lot of fun. I didn't play that much. It was just kind of a chill T1. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was nice.
How did you make preparations for it? Because again, initially, I guess you were trying to go in order, right? You got a couple T10s, and then you go for T3, and then T2, and then maybe one day you go for a T1. But you kind of jumped the gun a little bit with that last minute switch in plans. So what was that preparation like? Like trying to prepare for a T1 did you find your preparations to be good, sufficient, or maybe things that you wanted to improve on for next time?
Yeah, so I definitely wish that I had gotten more funds at the time. I originally wanted to like pass the JPT10, which like isn't really that hard. It was only 30 million, but I just like got so lazy and spent a lot of funds on gotcha and didn't get anything. So I ended up parking at 24 million. But like my original plan was to go for T2. I already had T3 and I wanted to go for T1 in whatever the next like Pario event would be that would be announced. And then I was going to have like my complete RAS podium set. But it happened a lot, a lot faster than expected. Cause yeah, I don't know. I wasn't really that prepared for outside inside. I kind of picked up the spot on T2 a little bit last minute. And then I moved to T1 a little bit last minute. So it was definitely unplanned, but it was definitely worth it. I think next time I go for T1, I just want to be more prepared, like mentally and money wise.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. At least you kind of got away with it again, because the event was not the most competitive. It was not like, there wasn't like another person trying to go for T1, so you kind of had it on the nice side. But regardless, again, I imagine you put quite a bit of trying to balance the fact that like suddenly I'm suddenly being put in a T1 situation, like the ball's on your court, right? It's just a matter of you managing your time wisely, managing your funds wisely. So I imagine those nerves were still there, and you something they had to kind of overcome as you went through the event.
Yeah, it was actually pretty stressful because at the like start of the event, like a couple hours before the event started, basically the entire roster dropped. So we had to we pinged everyone in announcements and we were like, please join the roster and tier with us. There's nobody. And then it got even more stressful because it seemed like a lot more people wanted to tier. And I thought that the event was going to all of a sudden be like competitive because all of these people were asking to be on the roster.
Yeah.
And it was my first time ever managing a server like that. So yeah, it was pretty stressful, but I mean, in the end, it worked out fine.
Yeah. Managing a server and tiering is definitely two very different things. And the fact they had to do both at the same time, it's not pretty, but you managed to go by. So I imagine you had some trusty friends to help you and, manage the server, make sure everything's okay. And of course, check up on you as you're tiering to make sure you don't overexert yourself.
Yeah, it was actually kind of nice because I was the event was relatively dead, so I had like a set schedule every day. I would play like 12 hours a day, and then I could just sleep for 8 hours and then wake up and do whatever I wanted and then play for 12 hours again. It was just like really chill. So the entire time I was like on VC with like Goon and stuff and talking to my friends. It was just like it was really relaxing. I didn't feel stressed at all.
Yeah, and I think that's the great part about tiering in general. If it becomes a situation where you just feel really relaxed, you have a great time, fun time with friends, and hey, you may even get a very nice JPEG saying you got first place. It's like, oh, that's crazy. So I imagine that once you got that T1 title, it was a pretty surreal experience, and something that you felt really, really happy and accomplished about getting a nice first place title for a band that you really, really enjoy and really have devotion for. So
yeah, it was kind of surreal. I mean, at this point, I've only been playing Bandori like at that point for less than a year. I feel like it might have been exactly a year that I was playing Bandori. So it was like kind of strange. It felt a little bit wrong to be getting a T1 so fast, but yeah, it was, I don't know, it was really good. The whole experience was really nice. And I got to tier with some friends like Kay and Kevs and stuff. So it was really enjoyable.
Yeah, it's definitely very inspiring to hear that, people that maybe just started the game relatively recently can be someone who get a first place title in an event. It's definitely possible. So again, for newer tiers out there, maybe you're watching this on TikTok. I don't think you will be, but it could be something that you could inspire to be, possibly be a strong tier in the future, like a sort of the new gen tiers. I do low key want to promote like tiering, even though it's it's a little bit of resource spending and a little bit of maybe some gacha involved, and I know gacha's a scam, so don't gacha, guys. Use your stars for tiering. That's more guaranteed. But anyway, if more people tier the game, there's going to be more funds for Bushiroad and keeps the game alive. So even though competition is stressful and maybe not be fun at times, it's good to have some nice fun competition between people. So yeah, hopefully we'll get more people to tier and such. Yeah, so in terms of events after, now let's get back to the right timeline. So Diya, you actually ended up getting first place in the summer RAS event, which was the next RAS event after Felix Hedix beat. So tell me a little bit more about what you convinced you and what made you think, oh, I wanted to get a T1. Was it the fact that you saw Riley getting a T1 and had the fact that they got it? It's like, okay, I want to try it myself. Or, what kind of convinced you that getting T1 in the summer RAS event was your goal?
Well, actually, my goal was to get T1 for song instead. I wanted a T1 song instead of event.
Okay.
So I was in the solo for summer RAS, and then Frost dropped, sadly, and then Cess also dropped. So I got put up to T1. So I don't want to decline it because I wanted a T1 because I like RAISE A SUILEN. But I wanted a song tier more. So I was tempted.
Bit of a torn decision there. So you probably had like the good you had the good team, right? Because of course this was a VS Live event. It's was it Blazing Bonfire was the song, and you wanted to song tier that. So how was that trying to manage both song tiering and event tier? Did you end up dropping song tiering and just kind of focus mostly on event tiering?
They're both at the same time. I just started using.
Nice. So how was that experience doing both song tiering and event tiering at the same time? That's not something people do very often.
Stressful. I was more stressed about getting voted from song tiering than I was from getting voted from event tiering. But I ended up pulling it off somehow, which was nice, I guess.
So, I mean, the fact that you were, Blazing Bonfire is not it's an okay, in terms of difficulty, it's not like hard, but there's some pretty tricky parts. So not only you have to have the stamina to, make sure you play well and also have the good RNG with your skill luck, but also still have the stamina to continue with the event tiering. So that's definitely quite an interesting time there. Was there anything in particular that you noticed that was able to sort of help you get both of those titles? Like, was there anything in particular that you noticed in how you approached the event that you're like, oh, this is like, I'm pretty confident I could get the song title and the event title?
But I wasn't confident at all because the people I was going against are really good, but I got lucky, I guess, because skill order for one title is so horrible.
Yeah. Well, again, song tiering, there's definitely some very, I guess, notable individuals who are definitely very strong song tiers because they have the cards, they have the skill, and you need a little bit of luck too. So it's definitely something. Did you do anything in particular differently to prepare for song tiering versus event tiering, or was it the fact that it's like, okay, well, I already have this event tiering team and this is going to work for song tiering, so it kind of works out? So did you do any special preparations for song tiering?
Besides gachaing for optimal, not really. I knew ops, so I did the optimizations, and that's about it.
Was it difficult to learn ops, or did you get the hang of it pretty quickly?
It was difficult because it was 3-finger ops, and it was like really, really horrible ops that I do not like. But I got the hang of it pretty quickly, I'd say.
It's like learning the game in a completely different way. It's like very, whenever I talk with song tiers, I'm like, wow, like this is like playing the game like in like a 3D or like 5D plane. It's just like, it's crazy, like how you have to kind of like do certain things. It's definitely very strange. So, but it seems like, again, you were able to get that. And, being one of the few people out there who gotten sort of a double title on the same event, right? Both the song title and the event title. So how is that feeling overall? Getting T1. I'm assuming T1 on both, right? So like, how is that feeling like?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm glad because this means I don't have to tier another event for another title because I can just wear double T1s.
Especially when they're from the same event. I think that's a big flex, like a low key, like super flex. It's like look at my devotion for this event where I got T1 event and song. Like that's like match in heaven right there. So yeah, that's honestly quite neat to see. Of course, Riley, and again, for both of you, could talk about this as well, because Riley, you ended up getting second place as well in this event. Any notable memories from, tiering with Diya, first and second together on this event?
I think it was just really fun. We played on like the exact same schedule, like the entire event. If you look at our graphs, they're like exactly the same.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, so it was really fun. We just played a lot together and like we watched a lot of Love Live during that event, which was fun. Yeah, I remember I actually had plans to go for T1 in this event when it was first announced on JP, but I ended up dropping after I got voted in Fan Road, and then I got really sad, so I dropped the event. But yeah, it all works out because I got T2, and then I was able to get all 3 like RAS podium sets. So, and I got to tier with Diya, and Diya got T1. So I don't know. Overall, it just works out so good. Yeah. It was a good event, and I'm really happy with how it turned out.
Were there a lot of fillers to help out? And I mean, if there wasn't, VS Live's not the end of the world, but
yeah, there was a lot of people, I think. And I mean, to be honest, a lot of the time me and Diya were also playing bonfire sets so that Diya could get T1 song.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The song was like, it was okay for scoring points. So we played a lot of bonfire sets. There was like, yeah, I feel like there was a lot of fillers throughout the event. I don't really remember, to be honest, but I think there was a lot of people.
Yeah. Big shout outs to fillers. Again, I think those people are the low key MVPs, especially in an event where maybe there isn't as much, activity as the two of you have mentioned in RAS events, where maybe it's not as active, but having at least like a good couple of strong fillers to make sure that everything's okay and to help fill the rooms. I think those are definitely the big MVPs of tiering. And I know a lot of people who tier high. I'm sure you greatly appreciate the fillers out there, because they really are the MVPs for sure.
Yeah, it's like can't tier without fillers. They're very important.
Yeah. And of course Bushiroad's like, well, you know what? Why don't we make medley lives? Because you don't need fillers there. You just need more gacha cards. And no thanks to me. No thanks to me. Medley lives I'm avoiding. That's big whale bait there. So yeah.
I not like my medley lives, but I don't know about the whole team things. I don't know about that. Yeah. It's too much.
Yeah. Like, I mean, what medley lives, it rewards people having better cards and such. And I am the proposition of gachas is a scam. So, for people who don't gacha, it's a rough time. It's a rough time. So yeah. But anyway, just before we wrap up in terms of like just in terms of like this episode, Riley, of course, you also got recently a T10 in the most recent event, even after being reborn 100 times. We were actually going to do this podcast while you were tiering, but because of timing and such, it didn't really quite work out. But was that a chill experience overall? Just like the usual.
Yeah. That event was so dead. I played really hard on the first 2 days, and then I had a bunch of CP, and so I just played like when I was at work on my breaks, I would burn CP, and so I have like 2 15-minute breaks and a 30, so it's like an hour worth of burning CP a day. And then I would come home and I would do school, and then if I got the chance, I would burn CP, and somehow I was in T10 for the entire event. I honestly, I don't know how it happened, but I barely played and I ended up in T10.
That's how you manage your time wisely, folks. Someone with school, work, and tiering is still able to get your title, but also choose your events wisely too. So.
Oh yeah, as Goon says in the chat, I was also on VC with him streaming TikTok instead of tiering. I really did not play at all during that event. It was so dead. But you know what? I'm glad I got the title. I wanted to tier that event for a long time, so I'm happy it worked out.
That's good. That's good. Maybe after listeners listen to this podcast, they're like, wow, RAS events are so dead. Maybe I should try tiering. Maybe they'll add some more competition and give you two a little bit of extra, little boost, a little bit of a taste of what competition is like. So
I don't know about that.
We'll see how it goes. Yeah. So again, for both of you, big congrats on your amazing tiering achievements. Diya with, of course, T1 in both song and event. Riley with a couple of podium plus titles. So big props to both of you on your amazing achievements. Anything else that you would like to briefly discuss in terms of your tiering achievements that maybe I missed? Any funny stories from tiering, or any other titles that you want to mention or share?
I have a couple Morphonica tiered that I don't know. I feel like a lot of people don't know that I tiered those events. So I feel like I should mention them. I tiered the Us Versus Teamwork event, so the first Toko banner. And I think that no one knows I tiered that event. So I just like to put it out here and say that I did T10 that event.
Hey, shout outs to Toko, because she's apparently the least popular character, and I totally disagree with that.
You know what? She's my second favorite, so I love her.
Yeah, she's great. She always loses in the popularity polls, and I'm like, why?
I love her so much.
I know, right? She's great.
But yeah, I did tier that event, and it's a little bit of a funny story. I had literally the worst team possible. I tiered that event with Cool Poppypa, and it was a happy mixed event with one Poppypa character. So I ended up playing literal podium hours to get T7 because my team was so terrible.
So that was probably your most stressful tiering achievement.
Yeah, that was definitely the most alive event I've played, and the cutoff was 6 million, so it really was not a live event. But yeah, it was fun. I just wanted to mention that event because I don't know, it was my second T10 and it's pretty important to me.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. And of course, Morphonica, part of the reason why you got into tiering was because of Morphonica. So
that is true. I think I'm a bit of a Morphonica fan. I like to say I'm not, but I definitely am.
Well noted on that. Diya, anything else you want to share in terms of last minute tiering stories, or everything has been let go here?
I do want to talk about Terrible Horror Night, which I didn't T10.
Oh, okay.
But I did get T50 on that, and it was really fun event because Maddie was steering and I was we were all helping homie and a few friends. It was really fun. We parked together on a train. We've done that twice before, and this time we were right on the cutoff. We were exactly T50.
Wow, that's amazing. And I think that was one of the first few events with the T50 title. So
yeah.
That's pretty great. Shout outs to Batty Maddie for a terrible Horror Night event. So all right, so just before we wrap up, and again for both of you, it's been a great pleasure in the studio. Just before we wrap up, I just want to shout out our studio question. And of course, a studio question is something that we have our guests contribute, and of course our viewers as well, if they want to contribute to the question as well. I had it set up and I deleted it by accident, so let me write it again in the in the chat here. So apologies for a slight pauses here and there. Right now, I'm just writing the question here. I'm so bad at typing. So the studio question is if you could add any confirmed upcoming update from JP Dory. So it could be something that's already in JP Dory, but not in Ian Dory. Or maybe something that's coming up from the 5.5 year anniversary or the 6th year anniversary that's coming to JP Dory. And then you want it immediately in Ian Dory, like right now. What would it be? That's a bit of a convoluted way of saying a pretty simple question, but hopefully you get it. Any thoughts to our guests here about this question?
I like the the character rank thing that they just announced. Yeah. They have that in Project Sekai, and I really like it, and I really want it on Bandori, like right now. Because I plan to retire before that event or like that feature is gonna come out, so I want it right now.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's like one of the most interesting additions. Again, Bandori is just so late with a bunch of these like really interesting trends, so it's good that they're able to catch up to it. But you know, for Bandori, it's going to come like a year and a half from now. It's like, oh, like, I mean, at that point, Riley, you might be playing the game casually, so you know, it's just a bit of a wait. It's just gonna be a bit of a wait. So you know, but having that playing in a more casual setting when you have that kind of character rank I think is just a lot of fun as well. So, but I totally agree. If I had to choose, I'd probably say that as well. You know, some people in the chat have talked about AP indicator. I agree with that. For people who are good at the game, if you know whether or not you have an AP on the song. I think that's very important for people like me who are always trying to achieve APs, people like Diya, who is also very guerrilla in the game, and I'm sure that she also would agree with that as well. Diya, anything else that you think in terms of upcoming updates, do you think that you would love to have immediately?
Well, besides the obvious AP indicator, the blue seals mechanic from 5th anniversary for gacha.
Oh, yeah! The extra pity? Oh, that's so true. I totally forgot about that.
I need it like right now because I don't like dupes. I need something to do with dupes. I need it like
honestly, I think I was planning for my T1, and I was planning to have like my T1 within like after, like that event would be after this update. But I don't think that's going to happen because I think I wanted to use like the blue seals to my advantage to possibly spark something, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to happen before that. No, that update is going to happen after my my T1. So too bad. I would totally agree because anything that make gacha less luck based and less of a scam, I also totally agree. So yeah.
Yeah, we really need that as soon as possible. I don't know why these slice of life features take so long to come to EN. Because they could just like add it now. I don't know what that problem is.
They're slight the team. They have some you know some issues.
there's some things going on.
Yeah, they're working on it. They're trying their best. Let's say that they're trying their best. But yeah, I think again though, I think the only thing is just the fact that we have to wait like a year and a half, like for most of these updates, and like. A year and a half from now, we don't know what's going to happen to us. Like, you know, we'll see how it goes with our, you know, with how we feel about Bandori. But you know, maybe the game might be dead by then. I don't know. Who knows? But hopefully not. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. So these are some great answers, and of course, we had some people in the chat also contributing to the question as well. Of course, if you're listening to this on YouTube, feel free to comment as well on you know this studio question as well. So feel free to contribute. With that, everyone, this will conclude our episode today. For Diya and Riley, thank you both for taking the time to join the RePHIL studio today. Just before we go, I want to give the two of you the opportunity to give some final shout outs, to say some last words, and also maybe share some future plans you may want to share about your tiering that you may want to do. So Diya, we'll start with you. Any last words, any last shout outs, and any future events that you plan on doing?
Yeah, shout out to the band. Our band. We have like a really cool band. Shout out to our band. And shout out to Nir, who is not here, but shout out to Nir anyway. And shout out to L, because L is not in the band.
This is very cryptic last words here.
As for future tiering plans, I think I'm gonna retire in like a year or so because I've achieved what I really wanted to achieve in the game. I'm all perfect in the songs I wanted, all perfect. I've gotten the titles I wanted. There's not really much left for me to do, basically. Yeah, that's about it.
All right. Well, hopefully the last few, goals that you are able to obtain, Diya, is there like any other goals? Like, are you going to try and like AP every single song in the game, or like, is that like a goal? Or
I really all perfect on all the hard songs, I'd say. So I don't really have a goal because
Okay.
I don't want to go back maybe like 25s and 26s. It takes a long time.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Okay, well, that's maybe a goal that you could look forward to, and then as you wrap up and reach retirement. So maybe you'll achieve that before then. So all the best there, Diya. And again, thanks for your contributions, and big shout outs to the band as well. The band.
Yeah, it's the band. Let's go.
Riley, any last words, last shout outs, and any future events you would like to share?
I want to give a shout out to my wife from the bank, Goon. He's my wife. I also want to give out a shout out to my 2 IRL friends who came to this podcast to watch me.
Yo, that's commitment there.
You guys. Yeah, that's my shout outs. Future tiering plans. I have 2 big plans. I really want to go for T1 in Cadenza. It's the Toko banner. And then the Pario banner that was just announced. I plan to go for T1 in that event too, and that one will be my retirement event.
Right. Well, all the best to you as well, Riley. And of course, if you're listening in the podcast out there and want to support Riley and their goals, feel free to join the Young Academy Discord server. Don't raid me, just join. And feel free to interact with special guests, and of course contribute to these studio questions as well. And of course you can interact with special guests and be able to meet with people like Riley and Diya. And if you want to help them in their goals, feel free to let them know, and I'm sure they would greatly appreciate your support. So yeah, all the best in that, Riley, and in your upcoming events. And that will be it for today's episode. So thank you all so much for watching and listening to the episode of the RePHIL Studio. Don't forget to check us out on all of your favorite podcast platforms. YouTube, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, and Spotify. Of course, as I mentioned, I already talked about the Young Academy Discord server. Links in the description below. And of course, the set has been complete, so get your cans ready. We'll refill on the next set. Until then, we'll see you next time, everyone. Take care, and bye-bye.